Bonnie Lipton had a grin on her face as she cruised her BMW onto the highway in Atlanta. She knew she'd be getting home a couple hours later than planned, but she'd just blame it on the damn Atlanta traffic. Nick made it worth the delay though. He's almost 10 years younger than Bonnie, a great lover, handsome, smart, and a smooth talker. Plus, he's young enough to bounce back quickly. Bonnie's mind then wandered to her husband, Ron. He had just turned 44 and didn't have the same stamina as Nick when it came to their sex life. Life is so good, you know. She knows exactly what she's doing in bed with Nick, but coming home to Ron and falling asleep in his arms is always the best. She's got the best of both worlds and her smile just keeps getting bigger. The farther she gets from Atlanta, the less she thinks about Nick. He's a good time, but Ron and her daughter Casey are the ones she really loves. Now that she's all satisfied in the bedroom, Bonnie wants to spend more time with them. She's figured out her emotions and knows when she gets home, she'll be patient and loving. Ron is such a great guy and an amazing husband. Casey was athletic and smart, she had tons of friends in sports and school stuff. It was pretty normal for a couple of her girlfriends to come over on weekends. Bonnie loved hanging out with young women, they saw her as a role model. She always made sure to look sharp, she had a top job at an architecture firm and was well respected in the community. Everyone knew Bonnie and Ron, they were a power couple. Ron is now in charge of his own thing. Ron runs the family's construction business and he's always so busy, but he never misses any of Casey's school events. Bonnie loves sitting next to him when they watch their daughter perform. She knows other dads sneak glances at her, but she also sees how some moms eye Ron like he's fresh meat. Even when Bonnie sits next to him, women always find a way to chat and flirt with him. Ron, the oblivious hunk, never seems to notice, but it bothers Bonnie. After driving for hours, Bonnie finally arrived home and noticed that her husband's pickup truck was gone. It was strange and caught her off guard. Bonnie was hoping her husband would at least be home to greet her after a tough business conference and a long drive. But when she walked into the empty house, including the master bedroom, she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in her gut. It was almost lunchtime and there was no sign of anyone around. So, tomorrow is Thursday, which means Ron has to go to work and Casey has school. This also means they need to get home soon. Bonnie started unpacking before taking a shower. While she was thinking about where Ron and Casey could be, she suddenly remembered that her phone had been off since dinner the night before. On her way home, she was lost in her thoughts and didn't even realize that no one had called her. Ron might have been mad because she never called to thank him for the string of pearls he gave her the night before when Nick was there. Ron was so excited when he saw how happy his wife was after he surprised her by drying her hair with a towel and turning on her phone. He was patting himself on the back for coming up with such a simple yet brilliant plan to make her day. He had known about her upcoming conference in Atlanta for ages, and it just so happened that her friend Bonnie visits them twice a year. Fate would have it that her conference coincided with their 20th wedding anniversary. A few weeks before, Ron was asked to build a vacation home for a family in Atlanta, which worked out perfectly. So, part of the meeting was done and Ron was cool with the client, Drake. He threw out this idea that just popped into his head: on the 10th of next month, it's our anniversary. My wife will be at a conference in downtown Atlanta. I want to surprise her and her coworker with a fancy dinner at a cool restaurant close to her hotel. And to make it even more special, I got her a pearl necklace that I want to give her at the table while she's eating. My daughter can help you set this up. Boyd said she's in college now and knows all the cool spots in the city. She could make sure that the necklace ends up in your wife's hands. It seems like you're hoping for some good luck when your wife gets back. Why don't you just tag along to Atlanta with her and give it to her yourself? I've suggested it before, but Bonnie keeps saying she's too swamped to hang out with me. She'll grab a late dinner and head back to the hotel ASAP to crash. I've got stuff to do here the next day, so it's not worth traveling all that way just to. Ron thought it would be dumb to just ignore it, Ron said. I have a better plan, Ron continued. What if I treat your daughter and her friend to dinner if they agree to sit at the table next to Bonnie and send me a live video on Facebook? I want to see Bonnie's face when she opens the necklace box. I'll give you my daughter's number so you can coordinate everything with her. Boyd replied, I'm sure she'll be down to help out. Ron then ordered a bunch of pizzas to his house for a party he was throwing to celebrate his 20th birthday. On their anniversary, he invited his parents, Bonnie's parents, his brother and sister-in-law, and Bonnie's younger sister who is divorced. They all thought they were going to see Bonnie in person, but he surprised her with an anniversary gift. Ron's 16-year-old daughter, Casey, was also there with some of her friends. Ron had everything set up so they could watch the video on the big screen TV. Boyd's daughter will sit as close to Bonnie as possible without making her suspicious. She will send me videos through Facebook Live. She even paid the waiter to help out. Make sure you drop off the present once Bonnie and her colleague Sue have ordered their food. We'll get to see Bonnie's reaction live, making this the best anniversary ever, especially since we're so far away, Ron explained, smiling happily. I've arranged it so that no sound will come through from our end, so feel free to comment, even on what a brilliant idea I had. Who's this dude with his mum? Casey asked as Bonnie appeared, hand in hand with a good-looking guy. I thought she was supposed to be with Sue. I have no idea who he is, Ron admitted. Bonnie's dad didn't seem too happy about it, but he didn't say anything when Ron mentioned being close friends. As everyone sat down around Ron's TV, they could hear everything loud and clear. It's so nice of your hubby to treat us to dinner tonight, some random guy said with a smirk. I'll make sure this anniversary is unforgettable for you, maybe even better than your honeymoon. Well then, you better order a steak, Bonnie said, smirking. You're gonna need it. Man, my honeymoon was amazing. So, this guy asks me, did you have a lover back then, or did your husband really impress you? And I say, Ron did great, thanks for asking. Then he goes, you're the only lover I've had in the past 20 years, not including Ron, of course. Luckily, he's starting to slow down. The men just grinned and said, well, the good news is, you'll have a way better 20th anniversary tonight than most women. I'll take care of it. Bonnie nervously suggested, maybe we've seen enough, sister. Bonnie has no clue what we're watching or listening to, so why not just turn it off, Ron? We don't want to miss Bonnie's reaction when she gets her necklace, do we? Asked a determined, but very red-faced Ron. Let's just keep watching this disaster unfold for a bit longer. As the couple was ordering, everyone heard Bonnie call her date Nick. As the waiter left with the menu, another waiter showed up with a nicely wrapped package. Look, Ron must have gotten me a wedding anniversary gift. Wow, what a gift. Bonnie shouted with excitement as she tore open the packaging. Isn't she beautiful? Bonnie asked, looking at the string of pearls. Can you help me put it on? She asked Nick. Of course, just lean towards me, Nick said, carefully fastening the necklace. After completing the task, he quickly ran his hands over Bonnie's chest. Your husband is so romantic, you're lucky to have such a handsome man, remarked an elderly woman sitting at the next table. True on both counts, Nick agreed with a smile. She has a romantic husband and a handsome one. Boyfriend Bonnie shot Nick a dirty look, but the older lady just laughed at his joke. I gave you a pearl necklace last night, which I think looks better on you than this, Nick teased, leaning in to kiss Bonnie on the lips. That's the difference between a husband and a lover, Bonnie said with a sly smile. Husbands give us jewelry, and lovers give us climaxes. Sorry, but I can't do this anymore, the gorgeous red-headed girl, who must have been Boyd's daughter, whispered as she turned her phone off. I should have known better. I was gonna leave earlier, but I was so shocked that I froze. I'm really sorry things turned out like this. I'll delete everything from my phone for sure. I gotta go now, the TV's off and everyone's in shock. One of Casey's friends was the first to say something. It's getting late, we should probably go. See you at school tomorrow, if I even go, Casey replied with tears in her eyes. Dad, can I go home to my friends? I feel like I need to be with them right now. Of course, honey. I get it. We'll talk tomorrow. Drive safe. Listen up, ladies. Ron had to whisper because his throat was so damn dry. I'm at a loss for words, Bonnie's mom started. We got the wrong idea about what's going on. Bonnie is head over heels for you, Ron, and she's willing to do anything for Casey. Don't do anything stupid. The other guests echoed similar sentiments as they quietly talked things over. After a few minutes of calm discussion, Ron finally spoke up. I need some time to think. Figure out your own way out and go. Give me some space to be by myself and figure out what to do. After everyone left, Ron started packing his stuff. Bonnie was shocked by the amount of messages and missed calls she had since she turned off her phone the night before. As she read through the messages, her heart dropped. Her sister and mother were demanding to know who Nick was and why she was being so chummy with him. They were convinced she had hurt Ron, and Casey was also really mad. Her mother and sister sent her at least a dozen messages. Bonnie was checking her messages, hoping to hear from Ron, but she had no luck. She was wondering how her family found out about Nick and how much they knew. She also wanted to know where Ron and Casey were, and how she could get out of the mess she was in. Bonnie knew she had to figure out what Ron knew and what he just suspected. She realized she needed to talk to her family to see how serious her situation was. "Hey Mom, it's me. Sorry, I forgot I turned off my phone last night," Bonnie started calmly. "So, I noticed you tried to give me a call. Is everything okay?" "Well, unless you consider losing your husband, your daughter hating you, your parents being disappointed in you, and some jerk's behavior as a wrong. I'm guessing it doesn't really bother you that much since you're happily flaunting that fancy pearl necklace from your boyfriend." Her mom was going off about how Ron got her a string of pearls for their anniversary, then Bonnie was like, "Why are you so upset? Your dad and I've watched enough vintage porn to get what your boyfriend meant when he said you were wearing his pearl necklace," Bonnie's no-nonsense mom said. "What makes you think I'd do something like that?" Bonnie asked, feeling a knot of fear in her stomach. "Don't try to fool me, I'm not dumb," her mother growled. "Ron invited us to see you open his 20th anniversary gift at the fancy restaurant. He reserved a table for you and your coworker, Sue, I think her name was. We've caught on to your little game. Girl, your man spoils you like a queen and you don't even appreciate him. Husbands give jewelry, but lovers give orgasms." Can you believe Bonnie said that? She was shook when she heard it. "Ron asked his friend's daughter to do a live stream on her phone so we could see how happy you'd be with his gift. Then we were all supposed to call and congratulate you on your anniversary. But now it looks like this might be your last anniversary with Ron. Maybe you'll find your dream guy soon. Hey Mom, when things settle down again, you know I love Ron. That other guy doesn't mean anything to me, it was just a distraction." "These conferences are getting boring," Bonnie insisted. "Oh, this changes everything," her mother said sarcastically. "Ron will be relieved to know that his wife isn't a cheater and was just bored. I bet you left your brain at home, Mom. There's no point in calling me names. How am I supposed to convince Ron that he's the only man I love? You didn't even convince me, so I'd say you've got some work to do. Seeing you with that guy is the worst thing I've ever seen. I don't think Ron felt any better after talking to your mom." Bonnie thought about her situation. Her whole family heard everything she and Nick talked about at dinner the night before. Remembering her chat with Nick, Bonnie realized how screwed she was. She decided to call Casey. "Where are you, Casey?" Bonnie asked when Casey picked up. "I'm with Morgan. She's trying to comfort me because my family is falling apart," Bonnie said. "Daughter said we ain't breaking up, just come home so we can chat about this." Bonnie asked, "Where's your dad?" Casey replied, "He moved to a cottage by the lake. I don't think he wants to see you. He was thrilled last night when he invited everyone to watch you open your gift. You really hurt him when you showed up with your lover instead of Sue." Bonnie kept insisting, "Please come home." She was trying to figure out how to make things right with Ron after talking to Casey. As she looked around the house, she noticed that a laptop and some filing cabinets were gone from Ron's office. The closet in his bedroom was totally empty, like Hubbard's mom's closet. Bonnie held back tears as she wandered around the house, noticing what was missing. Ron didn't even have a single photo of her around, which made things even sadder. Trying to distract herself from her failing marriage, Bonnie started cooking dinner for Casey. By the time she was done, Casey came in, made a quick meal, and acted all moody. She barely talked to Bonnie, only giving short answers when she had to. Bonnie knew Casey had every right to be mad, but she hoped things would get better with time. The next morning, Bonnie found Ron passed out on the couch with a bunch of empty beer cans. "Ron, babe, we gotta have a chat. Wake up, please." Ron slowly opened his eyes and groaned, then got up without saying a word and went to the bathroom. Bonnie decided to make some coffee while she waited for her husband to come back. A few minutes later, Ron came back from his shower and Bonnie put a mug in front of him. She was hoping Ron would start the tough conversation, but it was clear he had no intention of talking about it. Ron, I'm really sorry about what happened. I love the pearls, they were such a great gift that I'll always treasure. It's just a shame that I didn't know you were gonna pass everything on to your family. It would have been nice if you had told me beforehand. But all I got was silence from Ron. He was so mad at Bonnie for trying to make him look like the bad guy. Bonnie was shocked and hurt by Ron's response. In all their years of being married, he had never spoken to her like that before. It was obvious that he was hurting too. He's all messed up because of that weird help, Bonnie said calmly. Tell me, what should I do to fix this? You're the only man I've ever loved, and that hasn't changed. Together we can handle this. Tell me, what exactly is the problem you want to solve? Ron asked calmly. The problem is that I surprised you with an anniversary gift at a fancy restaurant where I reserved a table for you and a friend. The problem is that my client's daughter agreed to send a video of your reaction in real time. The problem is that I messed up. So, I thought you would dig this gift. Just spill it and tell me what's bugging you so I can get where you're coming from. Remember when Bonnie was all adamant last night about seeing me and Nick at the restaurant? I get it, you have dinner with other people sometimes, so what's the big deal? Ron asked. Come on, you know exactly why it's a big deal. I told you I was grabbing dinner with Sue, but I actually went with Nick. You overheard us talking and figured out that we hooked up. All right, listen up, we need to talk about this. Is the issue that me and your whole family heard your convo, or is it that you hooked up with someone else? The problem is my behavior, Bonnie blurted out, feeling embarrassed. She knew she couldn't argue back in her current position. You were just being nice on our anniversary, you didn't do anything wrong. Okay, let's move forward. Tell me why you cheated on me, how long it went on for, and how many guys were involved. Ron was like, is Casey really my kid? Could her dad actually be the mailman? Bonnie, emotionally constipated as always, was like, don't be crude. Of course Casey is yours. Nick has been my one and only since day one. Bringing up how many guys I've been with and suggesting Casey's dad is the mailman was just mean. Ron was all, you admit to cheating, but now you want to draw a line on how big of a cheater you are. Do you expect me to be nice and gullible when you claim you're faithful to me? Are you proud that you haven't cheated on me that much? By the way, how long have you been hooking up with pretty Nick? And how come you conveniently forgot to mention this when you started rejecting the title of city? This was the third time we slept together, Bonnie confessed tearfully, finally realizing Ron's anger and embarrassment. Besides you, he's the only one. Man, I've been with since we tied the knot 20 years ago. We're gonna spend 2 nights together at each of the 3 conferences, Ron said. Have you ever hooked up with him anywhere else? No, Bonnie replied. This only happened 6 times and I really regret it. I'm sorry. Wait, are you telling me that a young guy like Nick could only go once a night with a hottie like you? Ron asked. He never did more than once a night, Bonnie said, sounding discouraged. Who cares? Ron shrugged. We used to do it 3 times every night. Now for the big. Ron was like, why'd you go and cheat on me with some other dude? Was our sex life really that boring and lame that you had to go find someone younger and better in bed? And I was just like, nah, I was just bored and he wouldn't stop hitting on me. I caved, okay. It's not about us or our sex life, it's about me being vain or maybe going through a midlife crisis. He doesn't mean anything to me, I swear. And then Ron was all like, so did you bang Mr. Jenkins from down the block? Bonnie was all like, why is Jenkins strolling down the street in those stupid shirts? Ron, looking puzzled, replied, nah, I don't know him well, and I can't stand him. He's not important to me. Then Ron goes, but you told me you hook up with guys you don't care about. Jenkins fits the bill, so why not just do it with him? Bonnie quickly shot back, hey, I never said I sleep with every guy I don't care about. I only slept with Nick because he's hot, polite, and successful. Plus, he was chasing after me, you know. Oh, basically, are you saying you'll only cheat on me with hot, successful guys who are all over you? If you're not into the guys you're sleeping with, does that mean you don't love me? Bonnie confessed that she messed up but swears it won't happen again. She claims she loves me, just not Nick. Ron quietly questioned how he can trust her when she promised to be faithful at our wedding and other times throughout the years. He reassured her that she's a gorgeous woman. Hey Ron, don't be thinking that handsome, successful men will always be after you. I can't trust you, and I can't even give you the amazing sex you crave. Don't even go there, Ron. I love having sex with you, you're special and make me feel loved, Bonnie replied. How did Nick make you feel that you kept going back to him? Ron asked softly. It was the dirtiness and the feeling of being used, not like a mother or wife. It was the wrongness that got me hooked, not love, Bonnie explained. What did you do with him? Ron asked quietly. What does it matter? I love only you, Ron, Bonnie protested. I'm embarrassed thinking about you standing here telling me you love me, not him. But you had sex with him. It's hard for me to accept that you're willing to do more for someone who means nothing to you than for the person you love. Ron, you haven't asked me to please your manhood down there in a long time. I wasn't really against it, I just thought you lost interest, Bonnie protested, realizing how pathetic her words sounded. Yeah, what kind of married guy would want that? Can you believe he got that from his wife, especially when she hands it out like it's nothing? You told me on our honeymoon that I would be the only man you ever loved. Ron remembers you being cute and having a lot of fun with me. Everything was going wrong, he never mentioned you. I would never stand for that, but Bonnie insisted. Have you forgotten that I overheard part of your conversation? That jerk insulted me multiple times, and you just went along with it. Remember when he said he would give you a better 20th anniversary than most wives? You didn't say anything, did you? Are we just wasting time here, Ron? You found someone new and I'm cool with it. Looks like you should be too. Why fake like you want to stay married when it's clear you didn't like being my wife? And let's not even get into the terrible sex. You're gorgeous, successful, and smart, while I bring nothing to the table. It was only a matter of time before you found something better. Congrats, you found it. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Ron, we can't let this convo end on such a sour note. Let's talk about everything and figure out a solution. Bonnie was in tears as she begged, you can ask your lawyer to talk to my lawyer. It's the end of the road for us, Bonnie. I'm going to file for divorce. You left me with no other choice. One day, Bonnie went to work but was caught in the break room by an angry Sue. Why did Ron ask me about going to Atlanta with you for a conference? You know I stopped going on those trips after you started spending your nights with Romeo from the Chico office. I don't want to be your excuse for cheating. Did Ron call you and what did he say? You need to tell him, Bonnie, said Bonnie sadly. I didn't go to the last 2 conferences. I thought you had told him that we were going to share a room and spend time at the conference together, Sue complained. I don't like being used like that. That won't be a problem anymore. Ron found out everything on this trip. I think he's going to divorce me, Bonnie admitted. What other outcome did you expect? Sue demanded. No decent man could accept this level of disrespect. I was too damn stupid. Bonnie was so self-absorbed to even consider Ron finding out about this, Bonnie replied honestly. He left, don't you think you made a decision when you hooked up with that jerk from Chicago? Sue asked, her tone a bit gentler. I'm sorry you lost Ron, but I warned you this would happen if you kept acting like this. It wasn't me who spilled the beans, in case you're wondering. I know, Sue, I owe you an apology. I took advantage of our friendship. I'm sorry I didn't take your advice. I don't deserve a guy like Ron after he found out about me. Ron decided to play hooky from work to move his stuff to the lake house before Bonnie got back. He didn't want to hear her lame excuses for cheating on him. He couldn't stand the idea of being without Bonnie, but he knew he could never forgive her for not caring about his feelings or respecting their relationship. When she showed up the next morning, it was clear there was a massive emotional gap between them. She didn't say anything to make things right. Man, she really messed up this time. He had an appointment with a lawyer the next day to talk about getting a divorce. As he was getting ready to leave the office for the meeting, he got an email from Bonnie. He debated whether to read it or just trash it, but ended up opening it. In her usual direct way, Bonnie admitted to her mistake and how she screwed up big time. She thought she could get away with it and it wouldn't hurt him, but she was dead wrong. Cheating and lying mess up marriages, even if the other person doesn't realize it's going on. You deserve better than this. I've never wanted anything more in my life than for you to forgive me, but I won't argue with any choices you make about our marriage. I've messed up and lost my right to have a say in things. I love you and wish you all the best. You're a great man, husband, and father. This is all on me and I accept that, even though I feel terrible about what I've done to us. You might not believe it, but I truly love you, always. Bonnie. Ron was crying as he read Bonnie's confession and her asking for forgiveness. It was typical of her to take responsibility for her actions. She was a tough woman who expected the best from everyone, including herself. Ron felt hollow and didn't see a point in responding to the letter. He had already said everything he needed to that morning when Bonnie showed up at his lake house. The only way Bonnie knew about Ron was through Casey, who called her on Friday afternoon to say she was going to her dad's cabin. So, Ron's bringing her back home on Sunday night for the weekend. Bonnie was starting to see that this was gonna be her reality from now on. She had a rough weekend, just beating herself up over how she messed everything up. She didn't have a clue on how to fix things, or if it was even possible to fix them. Has she really screwed up her once happy marriage that bad? When Casey got back home on Sunday night, she looked pretty down. Dad's decided to divorce you, he can't be with someone who doesn't respect him anymore. I even saw him cry a few times over this weekend. I've never seen anything like this in my whole life. Do you have any clue how much you hurt him? Your boyfriend is way better than your dad, probably. He's not my boyfriend, and he's no match for your father, Bonnie replied, shocked. It was a huge mistake, and I really regret it. Your father is the best man I've ever met. Forgive both Dad and me for being doubtful, Casey replied. This isn't the first time you've been with this jerk, right? You've been lying to us for years, haven't you? Bonnie realized it was time to come clean with her family. I hooked up with him at 2 conferences before this last one. It was messed up and I'm sorry. Was it messed up? That's an understatement, don't you think, Mom? Casey was pissed off, saying I betrayed Dad in the worst way possible. Didn't I promise to be faithful when I married him? Did I secretly hope it wouldn't count? I know you're mad at me, but not as much as I am. Dad is a great guy and an amazing father, you know it. I messed up. Just because I don't agree with him doesn't mean I think less of him. Bonnie admitted that she acted really dumb, Casey said sadly. Bonnie and Jan went back to normal, but Bonnie and Casey hardly talked to each other. Her job was her only source of comfort, everything there was normal except for Sue's cold behavior towards her. She went to Casey's school events, but usually sat alone unless her mom was there. That was the only time she saw Ron, who always made sure to sit as far away from her as possible. The other parents quickly caught on to this, and it soon became a thing. Everyone knew they were splitting up. Bonnie overheard dads, both single and married, making snide comments and giving advice. It was clear that rumors of Bonnie cheating had spread around town. Ron focused on his business, which was the one good thing to come out of the mess. Ironically, Bonnie would end up with half of the business. His lawyer suggested ways to reduce her share, but Ron wouldn't hear it. Bonnie worked beside me and even shared part of her salary. Ron really helped us out when we first took over the family business. He kept us from sinking, and he always said that without Bonnie, we wouldn't have anything to share. Bonnie was shocked when her lawyer told her that Ron had given her half of his ownership of the business a few years back. This was during a tough time when Ron was struggling with cash flow. The company was eventually bought by Ron's best friend, Dan, who was a silent partner and owned a third of the company. Ron had actually given half of their property to Bonnie, which she didn't know about until then. He put himself in a bad spot by only owning a third of the business. Bonnie told her lawyer that this was too much and insisted that she deserved more because she was the one putting in all the work. She agreed to take 1/10 of what they owned so Ron could still be in charge without any arguments. Ron was as stubborn as they come, and when the snow melted the next spring, Bonnie found herself single and the proud owner of a third of Lipton Enterprises. She couldn't even get Ron to talk to her. Casey totally ghosted her on the phone, cutting her out of his life completely. She told Bonnie she wanted to spend the summer between junior and senior year at a lake house with her dad. Bonnie knew Casey was trying to punish her again, but she accepted that she deserved her daughter's anger. Ron, on the other hand, was thrilled. He made plans to expand the cabin. Owning a construction company made it easy to finish by the end of July. Now it's a 3-bedroom lake house. In the house, every bedroom had its own bathroom and a nice view of the lake. It was a super modern and cozy place. The first weekend in August, Ron threw a party for his friends and neighbors at the lake. All of Casey's friends were there, and one of them brought along an older cousin who caught Ron's eye. She had a stunning blonde look that went perfectly with her cute 2-piece swimsuit. Throughout the day, Ron couldn't help but notice that she was always around him, laughing at his jokes. Man, Patty's been teasing and flirting with him every time she gets the chance. "Hey Dad, are you trying to hook up with that young chick in the bikini?" Casey asked one day when they were alone in the kitchen. "No way, she's probably not even 25 and I'm not ready to start dating again," Ron protested. "Actually, she's 27 and she seems really into you," Casey replied with a smirk. "She's been asking about your relationship status, your age, your job, all the stuff women want to know about a potential hubby." "I just met her today, so don't even think about it," Ron replied. "Talking about marriage to me? I gave it a shot once and that was it. I'm not implying anything other than the fact that she seems into you. I wouldn't mind if you went out with her, she's really nice and you need someone to help you move on from your mom. From what I can tell, Patty isn't in a rush to tie the knot. I think she's focused on her career right now, but that doesn't mean she's not open to dating guys." "Thanks for filling me in," Ron teased his daughter, "this girl is too hot to be into it." "Hey, I may be an old dude but thanks for trusting me. I really appreciate you believing in me." Bonnie's company had the top 2 floors of an office building in the business district. At the end of the block, there was a super popular Italian restaurant. She used to have lunch there every Thursday with some work buddies. Since she had a flexible lunch schedule, she would often see the same people eating at the same time. Bonnie and her co-workers even became friends with employees from other companies in the building. So, the bistro was super packed that afternoon and Bonnie's crew couldn't snag a table. But then this dude from Benson Advertising on the 2nd floor of her office building invited them to join their big table. They were all down for it and after everyone did the whole name introduction thing, they got to chatting. There was this one chick from the advertising team who was really cute and super nice. Bonnie was totally vibing with her good vibes and had a great time chatting with her. The ladies started messing with the woman, saying not all of us have a rich dude with a fancy house on Lake Henry. Bonnie, who knew the woman as Mary, joked that it must be nice to wake up with the sun shining on the lake. The young woman agreed, especially if you have a good-looking guy gently waking you up. She added that getting out of bed is a pain, especially if that guy who picked you up on Thursday is the one. Another woman commented that he looks a bit older than you, but he seems fit. Ron is just average looking with plain hair, but he's more than that, the young woman said with a big smile. He's a great guy and a great lover. Bonnie's friend quickly asked the question Bonnie didn't want to think about. "You're not talking about Ron Lipton, are you?" "Do you know Ron?" the young woman asked before adding, "You have to admit, he's good looking." "Heck, he's a great guy. But he used to be Bonnie's husband," her colleague pointed out. "I think we should change the subject." "Don't be so dramatic, Bonnie." She leaned in towards the young woman and reached out her hand. "I'm Bonnie Lipton." "I didn't catch your name," she said to Patty Lawson. Ron had mentioned that his ex-wife was beautiful, but I figured he was just seeing her through rose-colored glasses. Patty confessed that Ron didn't do her justice after all. "I hope you're not mad that I'm living with Ron now." "I can't blame you or him for that," she added. Bonnie replied honestly, "You're a stunning young woman with an amazing body. I totally get why Ron was into you. I just wonder why Casey never mentioned anything about you to me. I can't speak for Casey, but I gotta say, you did a good job raising your daughter. She's smart, attentive, and gorgeous, just like her mom. I love it when she comes to visit us." Patty said that last night. Bonnie asked Casey during dinner, "Why didn't you tell me your dad has a hot girlfriend living with him? That's something I would have wanted to know." "Honestly, Mom, I didn't mean to upset you. I know how you feel about Dad," Casey replied. "I'm still mad that you cheated on him, but I don't want to bring you down for your crappy decisions. Patty is actually really good to Dad, he seems happy again. It might shock you, but I'm happy to hear that Ron is happy. He's a great guy and deserves someone who truly loves him, even if it's not me. I don't think she's head over heels for Dad, but she definitely cares about him." She's made it clear that her career is her top priority for the next few years. I want to be super successful too. Hey, are you ever gonna start dating again, Mom? Do you still talk to that guy you met at conferences? Do you think you get along with him? Casey asked Nick. He's not really my type, Bonnie confessed. He's kinda shallow, a bit rude, selfish, and full of himself. I never saw it as anything serious, just some entertainment. But it turns out he made my life a nightmare, even though I knew what I was getting into. I shouldn't blame him for my own weakness. Are you crushing on anyone? Casey asked. You're still a catch, you know. Yo, have you ever peeped how some dads and teachers give you the extra friendly treatment at school events? Honestly, I think Ron set the bar too high for other dudes, Bonnie said with a sad smile. Everyone knows the reason for our divorce around here. It makes the ladies feel bad for your pops and the guys see me as an easy target. Nick probably thought it was a piece of cake, but I ain't making that mistake again. I just don't get how you could betray your own dad if you love him so much, Casey was shocked. He always treated me. I gotta be honest with you, something's not right. I had to ask myself, Bonnie, have I been taking your dad for granted? I knew he loved me and I was pretty sure about that love. But somehow, I started looking for attention from other guys, thinking I had a dependable guy waiting for me at home. Ron was my rock, always there for me. I stupidly thought he'd always be there, no matter what. I could have strayed a bit and he wouldn't even notice, my loyal husband waiting at home. I hope you find a guy like Ron when you're ready to settle down and have kids. Learn from my mistakes, always give as much as you take in a relationship, be loyal, committed, and honest. If you're thinking about something that could cause problems, talk to your partner about it. I learned the hard way that lying and cheating will only bring pain. Bonnie would sometimes see Patty at lunch, and she was pleasantly surprised by how much she enjoyed her company. She also felt a bit ashamed that she was eagerly waiting for any updates. So, Ron didn't want to spill all the beans about her dad to Bonnie 'cause, you know, she's his daughter and all. Patty, on the other hand, had no problem gabbing about Ron with her friends. Bonnie, it's pretty clear you still got the hots for Ron, Patty blurted out one day over lunch. He never talks smack about you, but it's obvious you really ticked him off. Not trying to be judgy, but I gotta say, I'd never two-time someone if I was in a relationship. That's just not my style. I can't believe you actually did this. Everything I see and hear from you shows that you really care about him. Just remember this when the sparks die down and you're stuck in the daily grind. Bonnie responded, I messed up and paid the price. Love isn't always about crazy sex and fancy trips. Sometimes it's about figuring out when to clean out the septic tank or what color to paint the house. Things might seem boring, but that's life. Ron is a stand-up guy, a good friend, and... Man, I really screwed up big time with my dad. I'll always love him, but I betrayed him in the worst way a wife can. I finally learned my lesson, but it might be too late. I broke the news to Ron last night that I got a job offer in Seattle and I'll be leaving in 2 weeks. It's a huge opportunity for me, and I always made it clear that my career comes first. But seeing how upset he was really hit me hard. Patty told me to give you a heads up so you can understand what he's going through and maybe help him if he gets down. HEK is a great guy, but I don't think he's my forever. Girl, I bet your boyfriend is gonna be heartbroken when you leave. Ron doesn't just make big decisions out of nowhere, so if he asked you to move in with him, it means he really values you as a person, not just because you're cute. And let me tell you, he's a tough guy. I tested him, but he came out on top. Bonnie smiled and said he'll miss you, but he's a catch so his bed won't be empty for long. That's why I wanted to tell you first. Patty smiled back and said, what about you? It's up to you what you do with it. Just a week had gone by when Ron's buddy and business partner Dan hit up Bonnie to grab some grub at the bistro. The place was packed, but they managed to snag a little table off to the side. After the usual hellos and whatnot, Dan spilled the beans on why he wanted to meet up. You know that piece of land Ron snagged on Route 21 by the river? I've got a buyer willing to drop almost $2 million for it. Ron practically stole it. The profit will be massive. Your cut will be over $500,000, Ron chipped in. Bonnie asked if he's gonna sell it, since the land can be bought and will probably be worth a lot in the future. Dan responded, saying the issue is that he wants to do a long-term lease instead. He wants the contract to include building whatever the tenant needs for their business. Bonnie agreed, thinking Ron is pretty business savvy. I'm sure he's got it all figured out. Listen, math and his fancy plans might bring in more cash in the long run, but why wait? I say we sell the land now for a quick profit. Planning for 10 to 15 years ahead is all well and good, but I want my money now. You own a third of the company, I own a third, so why don't we team up and push Ron to accept the offer? Then we can get our cut of the money. Ron won't lose out, he'll get $500,000 in cash to smooth things over. Bonnie could feel her anger bubbling up as Dan laid out his scheme. Are you seriously asking me to double-cross Ron's trust? You think I care more about money than upsetting Ron? Let me set you straight. Ron would see this as a huge betrayal from his wife and best friend. This would hurt him more than if his wife cheated on him with some young guy at a conference. Dan, you're his ex-wife for a reason. You've already betrayed him by cheating, which is why he divorced you. This is your chance to get back at him and make some cash, Dan. Let's be real, thinking I'm gonna believe you're a loyal wife is a joke. We both know that's not you. I messed up with Ron, I'll own up to it, Bonnie said, holding back her anger. I was dumb, selfish, but I never wanted to hurt him. He deserves way better than us, better business partners than we'll ever be. That's why I won't ever betray him again. I'd rather go broke than hurt Ron like that. I showed I was a crappy wife, and you just showed you're a terrible friend and partner. Ron's gonna have my company share as long as I'm alive. Actually, I'm gonna update my will to make sure he gets it when I kick the bucket. You should know not to question his business smarts. Bonnie said angrily as she stood up and slapped a bill on the table to pay for her half-eaten lunch. Then she locked eyes with Dan and warned, don't even think about trying to steal that too. Almost a month later, Bonnie opened the door to find Ron standing on her porch. She was shocked since Ron had been avoiding her since that morning. Hey, she just got back from that disaster of a conference. Ron just showed up, everything's good. Casey took off a few minutes ago if you're trying to find her, Bonnie said, looking surprised at how amped she was about Ron being there. I'm here to chat if you've got a sec. Ron started walking into the house that he'd owned for over 15 years. Can you spare a few minutes? If you're busy, I can come back another time. I'm not busy, Bonnie quickly replied. I just brewed some coffee. Let's chill in the kitchen. Thanks for having me over. Ron quickly said, grabbing his coffee mug, you always made damn good coffee when we first got hitched. I didn't even know how to cook it. Bonnie answered with a grin, it took me a while to get it right. I didn't marry you for your coffee. Ron countered, you had other qualities that I found way more appealing. Bonnie chuckled, I've never heard you call them qualities. Ron smirked, but I've heard you call them Smith and Wesson a few times. Bonnie laughed, yeah, you brought out the big guns and I was powerless to resist you. Ron confesses that Patty must have you completely under her control or some part of her body. Bonnie mentioned there's some strong attraction coming from her. I really admire how nicely you treat Patty, she thinks you're a great person. Her opinion of you is one of the reasons why I'm here. A couple of weeks ago, one of her friends overheard your conversation with Dan during lunch. Patty mentioned this before going to the West Coast. She believes your commitment and honesty have been outstanding. I have to agree, especially after how poorly I treated you during the divorce. A lot of women would want to get back at their ex-husbands for divorcing them so fast, but not me, Ron. I know how much effort you put into your projects and how important they are to you. I'm sure this piece of land will make way more money than Dan thinks. Only a fool would doubt you. Thanks for believing in me. Patty helped me see that you're my partner, even though I ran the business like it was all mine. Gotta give credit where it's due. Hey, you got a chance to speak up and say what's on your mind, Ron said. If you want to sell this property and split the cash, count me in. Dan's been trying to talk me into it, Ron added. But I don't think he's got enough cash. He thinks we can each walk away with $500,000 if we sell, without screwing him over. What do you think? I reckon you've got some big plans for this property that could bring in some serious cash for the company and make us look good in the community. Bonnie was like, you never cared about just making a quick buck. I've always wanted to improve the area and make some good money in the process. Do you have some big plans for this area? I was in talks for a long-term lease with General Hospital to build an emergency care complex here. Ron confessed that it might not be as profitable as the fancy condos Dan's company is trying to build, but it'll still bring in a nice profit. Plus, we'll have a contract to build it, which is a win-win situation. I figured it would be something like that, Bonnie replied with a hint of pride. You're a savvy businessman, but you also give back to the community. That's what makes you different from guys like Dan. Dan just cares about making a fast buck. I don't agree with his way of thinking. I heard he came to you with a proposal and you turned him down. I have complete faith in you, Ron. You've never given me a reason not to trust you. I'll always have your back when it comes to business decisions. You can count on me, Bonnie. Listen, I know you don't trust me, but I gotta tell you, Dan is messing with your business. I was thinking, maybe we should just buy him out. If he's strapped for cash, he might just bite at a good offer. He'll be happy, and you can finally do things your way, Bonnie suggested. Ron nodded. I've thought about it too, but I don't have the cash to make it happen. Bonnie piped up, well, we could always sell this house. I can handle the negotiations. Hey, Casey, and I found a sweet 2-bedroom pad. We've been saving up some cash over the years, almost got the house paid off, and made some big upgrades. Now that we're split up, we can use all this to buy out Dan's share. Ron was shocked when he asked if I'm ready to sell the house and invest in a business. I'm not sure when I'll seal the deal on the urgent care center, so I can't promise you'll get your money back right away, or at all. What do I look like, a fortune teller? Bonnie was like, don't forget, I was stuck with you for 20 years, so you better believe I want my payback. If you don't come through, it's cool, I'll owe you one. Ron was all, money can't fix the disrespect, but it'll at least get you away from Dan. Deal is, you move in with me and Casey by the lake. You'll have your own room with a bathroom, it's pretty sweet. But Bonnie was all bummed out and said, sorry, this whole thing is about personal life, not about money. Talking about dating and all the drama it brings, sorry I didn't consider your social life, Ron apologized. I understand you wouldn't want to bring a guy over when your ex-husband is living there, especially that Nick guy. It would be awkward. I don't date and I have no intention of starting, Bonnie replied. I stopped going to conferences and haven't spoken to Nick since that terrible trip. It's you who will have the problem. No woman wants to spend the night with you when your ex is around. Sleeping in the next room, if I'm around, it's highly unlikely that you'll find a woman who'll agree to move in with you. Although I won't completely rule out the possibility. I've seen women fall for you. I divorced you because you slept with that guy, and then I moved Patty in with me. My behavior wasn't the best example for Casey, was it? Ron asked rhetorically. My only excuse is that I was depressed and lonely. Another man took my wife away from me, and my self-confidence was pretty low. Patty was. Can you hold on to this for me? I'm really sorry I messed with your confidence. I wish this never happened, but I don't blame you for liking Patty. She's amazing. You're single and can be with whoever you want, Bonnie said. I don't think I've ever really said sorry for how I acted. It wasn't your fault at all. It's all on me. I messed up big time and I'm really sorry for hurting you. You hurt me too, Bonnie. I've never felt this way before. I was cheated on by you and Casey. I went from having it all to feeling like a total failure. Ron confessed that Patty helped him see that, even though he wasn't the perfect husband, he wasn't the reason you cheated. You could have just told me if you weren't happy with our marriage, our sex life, or anything. I would have tried to do better if I had known. I was just clueless. Ron, you weren't unhappy. You were a really good husband, a great dad to Casey, and a fantastic lover. Bonnie said I've lost my way and deserve better. I know it's weird, but I actually feel happy when I'm unhappy. It's like I'm making up for my past mistakes. Hey, Ron asked if you could come check out the house by the lake. I want to show you how I incorporated some of our old ideas into the renovations. I think you'll like it. Oh, and Casey has a volleyball game in 2 hours. Can we reschedule this for another time? Bonnie asked. Let's go watch him play before we head over there together, Ron suggested. Then I'll drop you off back here. Aren't you worried that people will think we're back together if we show up as a couple? You usually avoid sitting near me as much as possible, Bonnie pointed out. Yeah, I was a bit of a jerk, but in my defense, you really hurt me in our marriage. You can't expect me to be nice to you, Ron argued. Actually, you were much nicer to me than I would have been to you if the roles were reversed, Bonnie confessed. Your settlement offer was too generous. We both know it seems like that kindness is paying off, Ron grumbled. I'm thinking about selling the house to buy out Dan's share. I still can't believe you're actually willing to do this, Ron. You can have whatever you want of mine, you've always been straight with me. I know you won't screw me over, even though I probably deserve it. Let me show you the lake house. Ron suggested changing the subject to give himself time to chill out. While Ron showed the house, Bonnie was impressed by the renovations. You really killed it with the remodel. Casey's room is huge and she's got her own bathroom. It's like every kid's dream. So, when Ron showed Bonnie the extra bedroom, Bonnie knew it was time to address the big issue. The room is nice, with a cool bathroom and all, but I can't live here, Ron. It'll just be too hard for me to see you every day and be reminded of what I've lost. We need to sell the house and I'll find an apartment to rent. I'll be okay. We gotta head out soon for Casey's game. Come check out the main bedroom, Ron insisted. It's bigger and I know you'll love it. It's gorgeous. Bonnie complimented, you always do a great job, as she looked around the bedroom. That's why your business is so successful. You've got a good eye for detail. Ron asked abruptly, would you stay with me and Casey if you had this room? Bonnie replied sadly, I would still see you every day, but I don't think I could handle it. Ron quickly clarified, I didn't mean that you would be mine alone. I thought maybe we could share it. Bonnie raised her eyebrows and studied Ron's face. Are you asking me to share your bed ever since the day I found out? You cheated on me and I walked out. I felt like shit. I miss you so much, it hurts sometimes. You really messed up, but I slept with Patty for a few months, which kinda made your betrayal sting less. I'm wondering if we can move past all this bullshit and give it another shot. I don't want to be your toy. Bonnie told me straight up, if you want to punish me more, I'm out. If I come back, I'll be loyal and I expect the same from you. No more young girls in your bed, it's just me or nothing. Poof, just like that. I busted my butt to get my dignity back and I'm gonna keep it. Ron, I care about you, but you gotta be all in or I'm out. Casey was shook when her folks strolled into the gym together. She rushed over to chat with them on the down low. Mom, Dad, what's the deal? Casey started, but Ron just grinned and nodded before she could finish. Casey hugged her mom tight and whispered in her ear, welcome back, Mom. I love you, but don't you dare cheat on Dad again. I have a mate whose aunt is hotter than Patty, mate. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on our channel so your other half doesn't stray. And make sure to tune in for the next story, cause this one ain't got nothing on the next one. And if you're under 18, don't even try to sneak a listen to it.